Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the press conference of Madagascar.3, Europe's most wanted DreamWorks animation new film. And let's give a warm applause to some of today's most wanted actors and directors. Sitting in front of you, David Schwimmer, Nelman, Jared Pinkett-Smith, Gloria, Martin Short, Stefano, Ben Stiller, Alex, Chris Rock, Marty, Jessica Chastain, Gia, and of course our trio of directors, Tom McGrath, Conrad Vernon, and Eric Darnell. Warm applause again. Our first question will be to the three directors, obviously. Eric Darnell and Tom McGrath, you started giving life to this highly successful franchise, with Conrad Vernon joining you behind the camera. How would you describe the creative dynamics between the three of you to create this wild ride through Europe?
Take it away, Tom.
In the early 70s, Jeffrey Katzenberg plucked us out of kindergarten and trained us in a secret underground fortress to become an elite team of cartoonists. Actually, we've been very good friends spanning decades. We've all been involved with these movies. It's rare that a team gets to follow through with a franchise or 3 movies, so we feel really grateful and to work together as friends. And we're able to divide and work more intimately with the 600 artists who make these films.
Do you agree? All of you?
Yeah, so it makes it, in a sense, easier for us because we do share the vision. And we know that if one of us is in New York recording one of our actors and another of us is with the production design team looking at the art and someone else working with animation, that we can all come back together again, and we do have this shared vision. So as Tom said, you know, we've got hundreds of incredibly talented artists, and it just gives us an opportunity to be more intimate with them. And you know, we sort of think alike, but I think together, you know, the whole is greater than the parts, and so it works out great for us and for the movie.
No, I do. I love the movies, and actually over the years, it's become much more. I don't want to say easier, but we've gotten to, the first movie was actually really tough because we didn't. It was my first animated film. We didn't know what the movie was. We were sort of finding it. It was a 2.5-year process of doing the voices and not having ever seen it and knowing what that was going to be. So when we finally saw the movie and going to the second one and the third one, it really has gotten to be much more connected to, I guess, a process because we know what it's going to be and understand the character more, and I understand the character more, and everybody's gotten, I guess, used to how to do it, and I think it allows for a more creative experience. It's been really fun. So the last one was actually the most fun. We also had Noah Baumbach, you know, write an amazing script with Eric, and so that really helped too. I think, so the process has become more and more fun, really.
It's a lot of fun to have this opportunity and to be part of a creation like this. I love animation, I always have. And just as an actor, it gives you an opportunity to work a different muscle. You know, all you have is your voice, which was quite a unique experience for me, and I have to agree with Ben. It took a minute to get used to the process, but I feel like we all pretty much have it now.
You have it now too, David, right?
Yeah, it feels like putting on a really your favorite comfortable jacket. You know that you know, you break it out of the closet every now and then. You're like, oh my God, this feels great, and it's really fun being in that recording studio and just playing. Kind of, it's like a childlike process of using your imagination, and then it's amazing to see the end result when they cut all of our stuff together and it's painted and finished, and the sound and the music. I'm stunned by it. So.
First of all, when you're doing something that's established, all the trust has been realized because you know that the first 2 are spectacular, so you just kind of feel very relaxed in doing it. And also, animation I kind of adore because there's no rush. You can try everything. It's very. You can improvise, you can try this voice, that voice, and time is spent because there's not this frantic urgency of in front of the camera. So I find it's wildly creative.
Well, I think with the circus scene that we did, it was pure imagination, but we started off saying, well, we need to do something to beat Cirque du Soleil, which was a huge bar that we set for ourselves. But the process that we used was quite interesting because we got the art team together and we just started imagining how we would take the typical circus acts and bring them to another level with our characters. So, for instance, instead of just doing a tightrope, let's have Gloria and Melman dance on 5 tightropes, and then the art department would visualize that for us. And so through that process of going back and forth, inventing the act and getting artwork that reflected it, we kind of came up and started cutting with the music our circus.
Well, I think he just, I think he's a wonderful writer who came with a really great sense of humor to the film and an understanding, I guess, of really this. There's a sweetness about it, I think, that he brought. I don't know how you guys work together, Eric, in terms of because.
Yeah, and we all really worked together and collaborated on this. And Noah is like, he's such an even keel guy. He's an incredible collaborator, but he brought this kind of special depth and heart.
Yeah.
And
At one
nuance.
point, he wanted Alex to try to commit suicide, and I said we shouldn't go with that.
Yeah, right.
I said we got to keep it a little lighter for the kids.
Yeah,
But otherwise, he was a lot of fun. He has to figure out, first of all, who he is, which I think Alex has sort of been trying to figure out through all the movies. And he, again, like gets in the situation with Gia where he's kind of saying he's something that he isn't or someone that he isn't. And, I feel like the theme of the films is really about for Alex finding out who he is and also the friendship of everybody there being there for each other. And when we finally get to New York, we realize that we're not the people who we thought we were. And then we get trapped in the zoo again. And there's something, I guess, in the story about how we're always there for each other. And that, to me, is kind of what the thing that Alex gets, is that, his friends are there for him, he's there for his friends. And
I like all the children's movies. I like that a lot of the children's movies have jokes for adults. So, I mean, I've been at movies with my kids, and my kids will get fidgety. And like, oh, we want to go. And I'm like, we're not going until I find out what happens to this bear. So, it's like, we are watching this movie. So, I got no complaints with children's movies.
Yeah,
What about you, Jada?
I like children's movies. I think what I like most about children's movies are how sophisticated the themes are, and at the same time how unsophisticated the themes are. That it gives a child an opportunity to, especially with the animations and Madagascar in particular, it gives a child an opportunity to exercise imagination. And I feel as though when you open a child's mind in that way, there are lots of information or things that a child can absorb unconsciously. And that's one of my favorite aspects of animation, of how sophisticated the relationships are and can be, to also kind of broaden emotional intelligence in children, which I think is most important. But I would say that's my favorite aspect.
I had never done anything before where I didn't have my work with another actor and a scene partner. So there's the challenge of that and challenge of trying to express yourself completely with just your voice and not use your face or your body, which I've never done that. But the wonderful thing that I discovered from it is that there's so much freedom in that because, of course, in animation you can play any character.
And you, Martin, I mean, you've done, as you said, several voices. I mean, in this particular film, how easy or difficult was it to manage the balance between comedy, action, psychology?
Well, I think it's really up to the directors and creators. In my first couple of sessions of doing this character, it was all very loud, and then at a certain point, it was more defined than that. But then at a certain point, there was a feeling that now you had to add a level of sensitivity to the character, and he could be a little quieter, and so it's constant evolution, and they hold the cards as to the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Just for the action, it's a very difficult job that everyone does because when they're running down the street, they have to run in place. And they have to project when there's high action, and also be as intimate when they're in intimate scenes. It's very difficult because, as Jessica was saying, you're alone behind a mic, and you have to use your imagination. So it's great credit to these actors and comedians to to put themselves and imagine this world around them and these things happening. It's
And some of the
very special
actors here have limited imagination, so...
We want names. We want names.
Ben, you want to comment on that?
No, I don't.
Oh, just curious.
Okay.
I mean, like, as a director, I always like people that are too big, because it's so much easier to get them down than to get somebody who is too small up. That's like, oh, that's the most frustrating thing in the world. So I improv all the freaking time until they tell me to stop. And they go, okay, we got to get this line. You got to say circus. And I make sure after a lot of improvs that I say exactly what they want me to say, but I try to. All right, guys.
Yeah, I mean that is the great thing about our process, and it's what we want. Is we want to leverage off of these guys, you know, who are, you know, not only great actors, you know, writers, comedians, filmmakers, and a big part of our process is letting these guys do what they do. And helping us to find these characters and to find these scenes and to find our story. And, you know, without that freedom, like as Martin was saying, you know, giving them the time and the space to just experiment, you know, to go off and try something for 10 or 15 minutes or whatever. And it's okay because, you know, there's not 200 people and cameras rolling and rented lights and everything else. I mean, we can just go to the studio and play around. And as our producer, Murray Soria, says, it's kind of like this 3 or 4 year process of kind of workshopping a play. And so we wouldn't have the kinds of film we have if we didn't give these guys a chance to bring their genius to the table.
No, I just say I'm really excited to be here. It's my first time here. And to have my voice in a film at Cannes is a good step towards actually being in a movie, full movie at Cannes. So I hope someday I aspire to that also.
Move it, I like to move it, move it.